Welcome to the Joyful Mate podcast. Join your joyful journey mentor, Anthony Hartcher, as we explore the path to inner joy and fulfillment. Each episode, we dive into the science of happiness, share personal insights, and invite you to be part of this interactive book writing adventure. You'll hear from experts in the field of joy, happiness, and fulfillment who will share their wisdom and experiences. Let's embark on this journey together. Let's make happiness part of your everyday. So, welcome to the masterclass on Elevate Your Life Happiness Workshop 2025. So it's my first workshop of 2025, and I've got lots of research and insights to share on joy, happiness, and fulfillment. So I'm super excited to be sharing what I've come across over the summer period. So I was deep in thought and deep in research, and as a result of that, I've come up with my latest insights, which I haven't shared before. So this is new information that I've collated and looking forward to sharing with you. In terms of who I am, I'm Anthony Hartcher. I'm also known as a clinical nutritionist and by some behavioral change specialist. I've become familiar with behavioral change based on my profession as a clinical nutritionist. And so I got really interested and intrigued in human behavior, and getting more and more intrigued about human behavior has led me down this path of looking at joy, fulfillment, and happiness. And that's now led me into writing a book. So this is part of my book writing, this process of researching, sharing, distributing, and growing my content, because what I'm finding each time I share the content, I get feedback, and that feedback actually helps me gain more and more insights. And so it's been a really useful circle of, I guess, gaining information, getting an understanding of it, sharing it with others, and then those other people asking questions, which then lead me back into the cycle of researching more, finding out information, and sharing insights. So super excited for everyone to join me, and we'll get underway with what we're going to cover in this content. So first of all, with anything, I like to identify what the problem is. And so we're going to go through a bit about the problem, and it's going to help you become more aware of how to pick up that there's a concern. So if we don't have the awareness, we're unaware that we have a problem. And so I want to share the signs, symptoms, and what people go through when they're not feeling fulfilled, when they're not feeling joyful, or they might be a bit stuck. So I'm going to go through those signs and symptoms, and then go through a process of how to handle it and how to create more self-awareness. Through self-awareness, we can actually start resolving our problems. So I'm going to actually go through some steps of how to discover that self-awareness, and then from that, we're going to then work out how you better understand yourself and how you interact with the world and how you see the world. And at the end of the day, the only thing we can change is us. We can't change the world. So if by changing us, we change the way we see the world. And this is what this webinar is about, is helping you see a new perspective of life. Because we don't see life as it is. We actually see life as we are. Because we see it through a filter, our own filter. And so we're not actually seeing life as it is. And this is the really interesting thing, that people are seeing life in their own reality, but not realizing that people are experiencing the same version, but have a different perspective of that reality. And so it's a real, I guess, a high level conversation is where this can go. And so I'll tailor it to where the audience wants to take it. And we may get into great depths, or we may just sort of just be more pragmatic and how you can actually do something about it, as opposed to getting into the philosophies of joy, happiness, and fulfillment. And ultimately, what it all comes down to, and what I found in my research, is that it's all leading to connection, and it's connection to all things, everything in life and everyone. The more connected we are, the more we feel fulfilled, the more we feel, you could say, in terms of esoterics, oneness with the universe. And that's the ultimate aim of life, is to strive to become at one with the universe. And this is what we're all doing at our own pace, in our own way, but that's ultimately where we're all heading. So that's I'll leave that to the end because that is a real esoteric sort of conversation. And for me, I want you to get practical tips of how you can help and support your situation. So I'm going to go through the problem here as to what you may be experiencing or know of others that may be experiencing. And I'll often be sort of questioning about, why do I feel this way? How come I'm constantly feeling this way? And it may be sort of unhappy related feelings or unfulfilled feelings. Or very much today, people are feeling stuck. They're overwhelmed and they're really struggling to move forward. And that when you're constantly stuck and can't move forward, then what ends up happening is you start going backwards. And this can lead to more struggle. And with more struggle, it requires more effort. And this is a cycle that we can get ourselves in, is that we keep putting effort in and it keeps, the struggle is still there. And so I'm going to share tips as to how you can break the cycle. And it's really focused on what you can control. Obviously, there's a whole lot that we can't. And we often focus on the things that we can't control, and hence we feel more stuck, and hence we feel like it's more struggle. But ultimately, we can only control ourselves. Why do we feel that life is against me? So this is a question that people often feel when they're in that sense of struggle, and they're struggling to move forward, they're overwhelmed. And they feel that everything that's happening is like a headwind, and they don't feel any tailwind. And it's just how they're seeing the world. Oops. So in terms of, I mentioned before at the very start, is that we see the world as we are, not as it is. And this is because we perceive through our senses, and that those senses go through a filter, which is the thalamus. And that thalamus is connected to the hippocampus and also the amygdala. And so certain life experiences we will label as good or bad. And that sets up our filter. And that's how we constantly then see the world going forward. And so when we're perceiving things can remind us of the past, and we get a feeling from it because it's associated with a negative association of a past event. And it could be, like, for example, smelling perfume. It could be seeing someone that looks similar to someone in the past. It can be all these sort of things that are, or it could be certain events or certain times of the year, certain seasons, certain smells in the environment. All these things can just trigger these feelings. And often we're just not aware of why we're feeling triggered and why we're feeling this way. And so what can happen is we lose a sense of connection. We lose a sense of being aware of what's really going on and why we're feeling this way. And these are the sort of thoughts that we have in our minds that I pretty much articulated before, so I won't go into these ones. But one thing that comes up in constant clinical practice is people having foggy mind or forgetful. So this is when we're really overwhelmed and we're feeling that it's just a constant battle, a constant, we're just getting up and going through the grind every day. And that's because we're essentially overwhelmed, and we can't filter the information. It's information overload. We've got too much coming into our lives. So too much information. There's recent research that has said that we can only process 10 bits in a moment, right? 10 bits, right? So we can perceive like millions, like in terms of what comes into our senses. And so if you look at that ratio, and whether it's right or wrong, it's just like what we want to think about is not whether it's 10 bits. I've heard that it's 185 bits before as well. So, these studies come up with varying ways of measuring it, and they differ. But it's the relative difference to what we can take in through our senses and how much we can process. And a lot of the problem today is that we're allowing too much in, and we can't process it, and we don't know what to do about it. We get stuck, we get paralyzed because it's just information overload. And hence why we then feel like this struggle, hence why we feel like we're just going nowhere, because we constantly allow the overwhelm, we constantly allow the excessive information into our lives when we're not putting up boundaries and fences. And that's what I'm going to get into. It's one of the strategies of really getting on top of life is creating this bubble around you and what you allow into that bubble. At the moment, we often just allow everything to come. It's like it's fully permeable. But what we want is like a force field around us, and we really filter strongly what we want to come into our lives and what we don't allow into our lives. So that's one of the things is these boundaries. But before I get into the boundaries, I really need to share as to how you can define who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, then how do you establish boundaries of who you're not? So we'll get into that. So that's up and coming. So ultimately, these thoughts become feelings in our body and we physically feel it. And so these are some of the feelings that we may feel. I've got like unhealthy. I've got angry. We feel angry at the world. We get irritable. We're frustrated. There's lots of irritability and frustration because of all the rapid change happening in the US at the moment. That's what my corporates are saying. The employees are very uneasy because of the rapid change happening in the world. And that's unsettling. It's unnerving because there's uncertainty associated with change. This can often lead to feelings of helplessness. When we feel helpless, we're often overwhelmed with sort of sense of sadness that we can't do anything about it. So people getting frustrated with the decision making in the US is they feel a sense of helplessness because they can't do anything about it. It's out of their control. And this can overwhelm us and often lead to feeling tired, lethargic, because we're fighting a battle that we can't make any progress, that feel like we're making any progress and any difference. And so we're sort of fighting these emotions. And this will ultimately, when we're tired, we going to experience less joy and happiness in our lives because we feel like we're in a battle. And in a battle, we're not smiling, right? We're not the smiling assassin. We're generally fearful. And so it's this constant battle that's leading to more feelings of you'll struggle to find joy and happiness when you're overstressed, when you're overwhelmed and full of excess information and emotionally getting attached to things that you cannot change. And that results in more physical energy that's being expended that's not actually resulting in any change because we're focused on things out of our control. So where does this lead us? So ultimately, if we feel a certain way based on our thoughts, it leads us to taking certain action. And this action will be us doing something to make us feel better. And so this generally drives immediate gratification seeking activities. And this is why the media like to make us feel nervous, unsettled, fearful, is because when they put an ad on after they've shown the news, we buy it to make us feel better. And so it's this commercialism that's really driving this sort of, well, they tap into this behavior and they, I guess, take advantage of this human behavior. And so this is how commercialism works. People seek immediate gratification after seeing some disturbing news in the US. They'll then buy something on social media or on, through advertising. It will drive us to eat foods because when we eat, we release neurotransmitters that make us feel a bit better because it's encouraging us to eat more because we need to eat to survive. And so it taps into survival mechanisms. These are all based on I'm not feeling, or I feel threatened, unsafe, and I need security and safety. And so we go to things that we know that will make us feel a bit better, but they're temporary. It's not a permanent solution. So what I'm about to share is how can we get on top of this cycle that the media puts us in, that people that gossip like to drive, this drama, this triangle, this drama of hero, villain, victim. This is what I guess Hollywood drives. So we're surrounded by people wanting us to, because if they drive emotions, if Hollywood drives emotions, we feel very connected and attached to what they've just shared. We're more likely to share that. And so this is why people want to drive our emotions, because it ends up driving commercialization. It ends up driving consumerism. And so you could probably relate to, I can relate to feeling certain ways and then doing one of these things either once, twice, or many times throughout my life. And you can see how this is really driving our behavior. And now what I'm about to share is how to break this. So what can you do about it? And I'll circle back to what I said in the beginning. It's now becoming self-aware and connected with knowing who you are and then staying connected with who you are, providing a safe bubble around who you are, not allowing the outside world to define you, you define you, and then progressing through protecting those barriers every day and going about what your mission on earth is. And through this exercise, you can actually discover what your highest values are, what's most important to you. And you probably will realize and recognize that, hey, I'm already doing this. I'm just not acknowledging it. That's who I am because I value other people's opinions more than mine. So what we need to do is, in order to change our reality, we need to start working on our how we see the world and start working on that filter, because in that filter is where all our limiting beliefs are, all the things that we've been told that we can't do, and all the beliefs that we've been shared that aren't actually true, but they're stuck in this filter, and that's how we're constantly seeing the world, and hence why sometimes we can just feel that that world is constantly against us, but it's just the way we're filtering the world and what's happening around us. So this exercise that I'm about to take you through is going to actually increase your self-awareness and start for you to really define you. And then once you've done that, it's then connecting with that definition of who you are. So ultimately, when you look at the mirror, there's nothing there to change, right? You're totally connected with who you are and you love everything about you, everything. And that's the first step to becoming at oneness, right? Is connecting with who you are and embracing who you are and loving everything about you. And then we can move forward towards loving everyone else and everything in the world and feel at one with everything. So the first part of this activity, and you can ask me questions now. I've done my 20-minute rant. So what I want you to think about in terms of this exercise is really think about what energizes you. So what are the things that you do that bring you energy, vitality, that you just feel that, wow, I feel so energized that I could do this all day. And you could probably see what I'm doing now and what I'm sharing now is something that I could do all day. So I'm just getting started. But what brings you energy? Just give you some space to think about that. The other thing it will bring you is you feel centered. You feel in harmony. It gives you a sense of like there's a love towards it that you can't get enough of it. You just want to do it all the time. And it makes you lose track of time. Like you just don't know where the time goes because you're not monitoring the time. It just goes because you're doing something that you love. So what is it that you do that brings that energy to you?
Is that a question for me, Anthony?
Go for it, Eric.
I think nature's really good for me, being in nature, being outside, stuff like watering the garden or just going for a walk in the bush is good.
Yeah, so that brings a sense of calm. You, as a result of feeling calm, you start to take in, I guess, the energy from the environment. And it's actually I'm glad you actually mentioned that because we we've grown up with the belief that we extract all our energy from food. And that's something that is now being, I guess, scientifically proven that it's not, we don't extract all our energy from food. In actual fact, what the literature now is saying that we can extract up to 70% of our energy from the environment. 70%. And so when I hear that, Eric, when you share that you get out in nature and you start to feel energized and like just playing in the garden and just walking around green spaces, you're tapping into that 70% that like you think of how disconnected, and it gets back to my point of, what this overall presentation is about is connection, right? So you look at the disconnection we've had from our environment. Like I'm on this screen, I'm surrounded by concrete. I'm so disconnected from nature. I'm actually up a story. So therefore, I'm disconnected from the ground. So this is part of the problem today, is this disconnected from the environment, disconnected from nature. And so one of the takeaways, definitely, in terms of what you've shared, will be to spend more time in nature. And what you'll find by spending more time in nature is you're more energized, but you have more clarity. And so when I went back and some of those signs and symptoms about foggy mind and can't remember things, this will give you clarity, clearance. And this is where, in nature, this is where we become resourceful, creative, right? So by you actually spending more time in nature, you're going to find the answers to the problems that you've either encountered in work. I just got someone joining. Um, so like, for example, the best thing, like if you've got a problem that you're trying to solve, whether it be whatever aspect of life it is, for me, it's like you should just step into nature, spend some time in nature, and I can guarantee you'll find so many creative ways around this problem. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for joining, Yuri. How are you?
Hey Anthony, good afternoon. I'm doing good.
Fantastic. Well,
Sorry I'm late.
no, it's all good. It's all good. We've got a real intimate session here. It's just me and Eric. Now, let me introduce you both because you're both me&my members. So Eric's a member of my old chapter, Yuri. Yuri's a chapter member of a chapter in the Philippines.
Hello, Eric.
Hello, Yuri.
Pleasure
How
to
you
meet
going?
you.
So he runs a virtual assistance business, and Eric runs a commercial fit outs business. Awesome. So Yuri, in terms of where we're at in the presentation, is what we're doing is getting into the exercise. So this is where the rubber hits the ground. So I just want you to spend a bit of time thinking about what are the things that you do that bring you energy. So just put some thought to that. They also make you feel present. They make you feel very centered. They'll give you clarity. You'll have a clearer mind, and you'll have this infinity in terms of connection. Like love is infinite. You'll have this infinite attraction to it. Like it's like this not gravitational, magnetic pull towards it. And they're the things that you do that you totally lose track of time. Like you start them and you think, wow, where did all that time go? Or they can also make you feel like time stopped because you are totally present. So they can also make you feel that there's lose sense of time actually. Hence why you lose track of time.
Did I answer that so Anthony, or just thing?
Eric shared one of his answers, which was around when he steps into nature, he feels
Oh,
very energized. You can certainly share yours, Yuri. I am recording. Just be aware that it will be recorded. But I'm about to share mine, so it's just but you don't have to share. So in terms of what fills my battery or energizes me, it's probably no surprise to those that know me, and both of you know me well, is my health. As you probably have seen, I've got an obsessive compulsive disorder around health. My clients' health, I'm obsessed about my clients' health, too much, so much so that it could be to the detriment of the relationship at times. And my family, I'm very dedicated. I spend, I guess, all my time outside of doing work with my clients and working on my health. My rest of my time is in with my family. And then I'm very dedicated to my business because it's in the space of serving others with their health and well-being. And so these are the things that energize me. And the other way to think of this in terms of starting to define these things that are you could be to look at the things that strip you of energy, right? And you can see on the person on the right, I cannot, and Eric can probably understand, we probably have a better understanding of this now, why I walk everywhere. Driving drives me nuts. Okay, so I avoid driving the car. I'll catch public transport, I'll walk, I'll get other people to drive me, I'll be chauffeured, I'll do Uber, I'll do taxi, but I'll do everything that I can to avoid driving because it makes me irritable, frustrated. It actually makes me angry. And so I understand that it's not me. And so I put up a barrier to say, look, I'm just not going to drive. And if I don't drive, I'm going to keep my battery topped up and I'm going to keep my, level of fulfillment topped up. So the other way of thinking about this is, what are the things that drain you? What are the things that strip you of energy, that just drain your battery? So write down those things. You don't need to share them. Yuri will understand the other thing that's not me and why I've engaged his services is because admin frustrates me, right? I still haven't done my tax from last year because it's administrative. I just can't find the time. Well, I don't want to find the time for it. But this is why I've delegated as much of my admin to Yuri's team. And in actual fact, I didn't design these slides. I must give thank you to Novi, which is part of Yuri's team, for the design of these slides. I came up with the information, the concepts, and Novi did an amazing job in terms of putting these slides together. So again, one way in which I protect my energy is delegating the things that aren't me, that frustrate me, that make me irritable, such as driving. So Eric's driven me around a bit. He can vouch for that. Yuri does my admin, and I didn't set this up. It's funny. And the other one, which probably Eric can have a better understanding now, is that socially, when people ask me to do nighttime things, I'll often say no. And so if it's a lunchtime thing, I'll go to lunchtime things. I'll go to things that are active, healthy. But if it's late nights, things that are, I guess, hanging out in pubs, drinking beer, late nights, just not me. And so I don't do that. I say no to that. So think about some of the things that drain your energy and put them into this concept of, okay, this is who I am. This is what energizes me. This is who I'm not. And I need to find someone else that likes doing this. So Novi loves doing the work that I don't like doing, and she's very good at it. Bus drivers are very good at driving buses. I delegate that to bus drivers, and late nights, I just simply say no to. I won't even go to a late night footy game, even if my team's playing. I won't even watch my team when they're playing late at night. So that's how late nights really affect me and my energy. If I have a late night, I'm drained the next day. So I put boundaries in place that I'm not having a late night. Any questions?
None from me. All good.
Now, these are some other questions I want you to answer on your bits of paper or pens or whatever you're using, electronic notebooks. So answer these questions, and this is going to help further define who you are and what drives you, what energizes you. So what are the things that you like learning about? So I know Eric's interested in health, and so I know that is a priority for Eric. And I know Yuri's loves basketball. So I know he would follow probably the NBA or the American Basketball League, whatever that, NBL, maybe it's NBL. So what do you love following? So these are the things you listen to podcasts about. These are the things that you will do extra courses in. These may be the areas that you start a business in, potentially, like I have. So what do you love learning about? And then what do you love talking about? So what are the subject things? So I know that Eric has a connection with water polo. And he loves talking about, well, I think a bigger connection is with his kids, because he'll talk about his kids. So I know in Eric's pecking order that family is really high. And I think probably one of the highest values of Eric's, and probably what we connect deeply about, because it's also a high value of mine. And I spend a lot of time with my kids doing similar things to what Eric does, coach them, coach of their team, and all those sort of things. So
Anthony, that was actually the second thing I had down after nature. In no specific order, was spend time with my boys.
Because we often talk about that. And so, yeah. So what are the things that you're in circles that you love the conversation to go towards? So when people start talking about cars, you can imagine I switch off and I'm looking to get into another circle. So if people are talking about health, then they think, oh shit, what did I ask Anthony about health? That's what they'll think, because then I can't shut up, right? So what are the things that people ask you about that you can't shut up? You become an extrovert, and you can become a bit of a pest for those that don't like that subject. So just start thinking about those things that you are really extroverted in talking about. I know Yuri, basketball for sure, is up there. entrepreneur, like Yuri's a real entrepreneur. So business would also be up there, I would have suspected, based on my relationship with you. You're always starting new businesses, so you're
Yes,
very busy.
actually.
I think you've got about two or three at the moment. Like again, that's an interest to you. So, and what makes you curious? So, what drives your curiosity? What do you want to learn more about? And obviously, there's a bit of curiosity about what I'm sharing today. So, I know generally that the people that attend these webinars are curious to learn more about mental health, well, particularly this webinar. They're interested in empowering themselves around mental health. But what makes you curious? Like, when are you like you just keep asking questions about it and you just can't get enough information on it? What are those subjects?
Was that a question, Anthony?
A question for you to ask yourself, but you don't need to share
Right.
the answer. Yeah. But if you'd like to share, you're more than welcome to share. Just that I guess the recorded version will you'll be revealing a fair bit about yourself.
I like talking about property and about sport and about health and mental health and my boys, of course, and yeah, travel, I guess, is another one for me. So yeah, there's a few of them there.
Yeah, so the one you want to ask about travel is what is it about travel that's attractive for you? Is it the freedom? Like, would you see yourself as an explorer
I think it's
or
an experience. I see myself
experience?
as an experience collector. So it's about
Okay.
collecting experiences that I can tell stories about and entertain people with. And I think that's the unknown and like watching Howie Mongrels and Malcolm Douglas and watching them go off into new places. That sort of stuff I've always been fascinated about.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So yeah, you've got that real, yeah,
Adventure side of it.
adventure. Yeah, adventurous. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, you've nailed it. That's what it is. It's the adventure side of you. And the next one is, when you have spare time, what are you doing? Like some people is they just go straight to the golf course. Yuri's probably picking up a basketball and shooting hoops. I'm spending time outside in nature, probably in the ocean or somewhere, walking. Yeah, I'm generally outside with my spare time. Hopefully with my kids, if I can. I'll bring my kids along. I love bringing my family along for time outside. And then the other one to ask yourself is what fills your space around you? Because you'll generally take what's important with you. And so some people say, well, my mobile phone's always with me, but what is it about your mobile phone that is important to you? So it might be that um, because I want to know where my kids are, or I want to know what they're up to, or if they need me, I want them to be able to contact me. So therefore, it's not necessarily the mobile phone. It's what the mobile phone enables, which is the connection with my kids. For me, I get a lot of information from my mobile phone. I'm listening to podcasts, YouTubes, all that sort of stuff. So for me, it's probably like a library of information. So it's my boosting my health knowledge. Other people are taking their dog, so pets can be really important to you, animals. It could be that you always want to go everywhere with your partner. You want to drag your partner along to everything because your partner is really important to you. So it's whatever is filling that what do you allow into your personal space is probably a better question. And the next one, once if you've already thought of that, and don't think there's a problem if the same things keep popping up. What that's doing is just reinforcing how important they are to you. So if the same three or four things or five things keep popping up, it just means that you value those. They're your top five priorities. And it's really important that you're doing those top five priorities because they're going to energize you, bring you fulfillment, and really start to showcase your strengths. So by you focusing on those top five things, you'll start to showcase to the world your superpowers. What do you spend your discretionary money on? So that's spelt wrong. Anyway, I'll fix that spelling out. Don't worry about that. But so when you have a bit of spare money, like once you've fulfilled the basic necessities of survival, such as roof, food, transport, all that stuff, schooling your kids, feeding your kids, that spare money, where does it go? Because you'll spend your money based on what's important to you. So it could be reinvesting into your business because what you do around your business is really important to you. It could be any spare money you're going out with your friends because your friends are really important to you. You want to hang out with them, connect with them. They bring a lot of fulfillment and joy. Like Eric just shared travel. So if he's got a spare 10K in the bank account. It's, well, where can we explore? You know, what part of the world can we go to? What experiences can we gain? And what can I gain to further connect with others? Because I think a big part of Eric is connection with others is really important. What do you dream about and you see coming true? Like you can actually start seeing the rubber hit the road. So these won't be those sort of dreams that you've taken from other people. It's the dreams that you have that you're actually taking action towards. If you're taking action towards, it's important to you. If it's other people's dreams, they're just shrouding and clouding and making it unclear as to what your dreams are. So your dreams, you'll actually already be making progress in that direction if you're listening to your inner voice. It's only when we don't listen to our inner voice and we take in the dreams of others and then we sort of think that can't find the motivation to do that. It's because it's not important to you. It's important to them, but it's not you. Okay, so once you've sort of got those things that keep overlapping, so you've answered those questions, you have few things that keep popping up and keep overlapping. They're what's really important to you. They're your highest values. Now, that's what you want to keep feeding, right? And in order to feed that, you need to create space and create barriers from the things that aren't you, which is not like it's anything other than those priorities. So if you're doing anything other than those priorities, then that's when you're going to procrastinate. That's when you'll need external motivation. That's when people need to pay you huge amounts of money or give you huge kudos or like you know what I mean? Like you'll need some extrinsic motivation to do something that's not important to you. When you're doing things that are important to you, like, Eric shared, hanging out with his kids, being with his boys, no one needs to pay him. In actual fact, he will pay other people so he can be with his kids. And that's how important they are to him. So this is the same for me and focus on health, my clients' health, my family and my business. These are the things that I just protect. It's like, this is my bubble. This is who I am. Anything else, I either say no to or I delegate to others that love doing it. So what you want to start thinking is look at areas in your life, even your business, for example, the aspects of your business that you enjoy doing, that's what you want to double down in. The aspects of your business that you don't like doing, that's what you want to find someone else, such as an employee or someone you can outsource it or contract it out to someone that is really good at doing that of the thing that you don't like doing. And that's where we get synergy. That's where we get win-win situations. And so it's really important that we start to really thinking about what we're saying yes to. Because if we're just saying yes for the sake of thinking that we're helping someone else, that can basically create a cloudiness and loss of connection with who you are. Because you try to become everyone else you try to be everyone, you try to be the person that other people want you to be. And so you lose the connection with self. The reason why you're here is to be the best version of you, because there's no one else on planet Earth that is you. No one. And so what's the point of trying to be someone else? Because we'll always be second of being someone else. We can only be the best version of ourselves.
So, hey, Anthony.
Yep.
I've got an interesting conundrum that I face with this, and I've done some work on myself around saying yes less often and not just, I guess it's that fear of not being liked, I guess, and wanting to help and appease people. But part of me deep down actually likes the fact that I'm helpful and I help people. So when I'm trying to make changes to myself, I'm always like, well, I don't want to lose that part that is important to me about being able to help people. So I have to be really careful about how I frame it in my own mind, that I'm not, I'm helping myself first, and then I get to choose whether I help other people or not, rather than a blanket yes on that. But it's an interesting thought process I go through when I think about this.
So one of the filters that you might want to apply to that, and I totally hear what you're saying, I totally get it, is am I the best person to help them with what they're looking for? Because you're actually doing them a disservice when you aren't like, so this is the conundrum that I have with clients, right? Is that I could probably help that client somewhat, but this is a question I ask myself, am I the best person to really help them get what they're looking for? And so I'm always asking that with my clients. So I'm actually filtering my clients. And, I've got better at this over the years because initially I just wanted to help everyone. But what I'm finding is when I do filter like that, I find I have clients for life. They love what I do and they refer me like to everyone. And so, but when I was saying yes to any client, I was not doing like, because I wasn't great at what they were looking for, they would then think, oh, he's hopeless. And so I'd be unreferable. And so this is what I learned early on with my business and my clients is that I need to keep asking myself the question, even in the field that I love and I'm passionate about, is am I still the best person to serve this, or is there someone else that could do a better job helping this person? So that's what you want to ask yourself with anyone that asks you is thinking, okay, they're needing this service. Now, am I an expert in this service? Will I deliver to their expectations? Because often part of the problem is that we say yes, they have an expectation of this, and we do our best, and they feel let down, and you think, well, fuck, look, I put aside my time, I did my best, and you're still not happy, and it's because you were meant to say no to that, right? You were meant to say, hey, I know someone that can do a far better job than me, and I'll connect you with them. And so I think you'll be really good at that filtering process because you know a lot of people. And the other thing is, the other question you want to ask yourself, the other filtering process in this is, okay, am I starving them of an opportunity to grow? And this is a question you want to ask your kids, right? So your kids are going to always sort of, they're used to, ever since they were young, come to mum and daddy and ask for help, right? That's because they were once quite disempowered. They become more empowered as they go through life. But that attachment can stay and the parents can keep, I guess, doing what they want. But what that happens is it makes them more dependent on you. It doesn't allow them to grow and to become the best versions of them. So in essence, you can better serve your children by actually saying no to some of the requests that they ask for to enable them to connect with more resourceful ways or creative ways to find answers to what they're looking for. And so you think about anything that, well, you can take like COVID, for example. How resourceful did humanity get as a result of COVID? We didn't really Zoom. No one had heard of Zoom before COVID. Now, we can't get off Zoom, right? So you think about how good video technology has got as a result of COVID. So when we're like, and you think about wars, like you go into World War II and look at all the discoveries that happen as a result of the Germans having all this cut off from them. So Germans had no access to nitrogen, ammonium nitrate, I think, that's used in explosives. And so what the Germans, because they had no access to the known way of getting the key explosive ingredient, which is nitrogen, what they realized is that, hey, we can get that from the air. 80% of the air is, and so they actually worked out how to extract the stuff, the elements from air. But it was because they were forced into that. And so how you want to start thinking about these requests of you is, am I better to help by not helping? And that's what I'm always asking myself. So sometimes I need to step away from my clients requesting things in order to help them. And so this is, I guess, as you could probably see, it's how long's a bit of string, but I guess it's a tango, and it's a tango worth going on. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, I'm right on the hour, and I'm probably only halfway through the slides. So what I might do is I'll get through, well, we're into the boundaries now, and the rest is just sort of bonus stuff that if you want to hang around, you can hang around for. But in terms of what we want to do is, in order to be the best versions of ourselves, we need to prioritize those priorities that you've established. And that's what's most important to you. And that's where you'll flourish, and that's where you'll thrive, and that's where you'll take on any problem. And no problem's too big when you're working in the areas that you value. When you're trying to solve problems in the areas that you don't value, that aren't you, then they can overwhelm you and they can frustrate you and they can drain you of energy. And that could be trying to solve problems of other people's that you're not the best person to try to resolve that problem. And that can actually be, it can actually do harm to the relationship. You know, it can actually like, so what we don't want to do is have this perspective that when we helping others, it's all good, because it's not. There's good and bad. And so what we want to do is see the balanced perspective of helping others. So it's saying, okay, this is how it's going to benefit them. This is how it benefits me. But what is the drawbacks of me doing it? And start listing them out. And what's the drawbacks to them of me doing it? And so then we balance our perspective of helping that person, and we get a more mindful perspective, like a complete mindful, so a complete awareness of what our actions will initiate. Because as you know, with every action, there's a consequence. And so we'll want to be more aware of the potential harm we're doing when we're trying to help people, that in the area that we're not skilled, or we're just helping them to please them. And that can be really dangerous. Other thing that you want to start doing is start putting a force field and start, I guess, entrenching these boundaries around what you will and won't do. Because what they do is they really define who you are. And then people actually get to know the true you. When you're trying to be everything to everyone else, they've got no idea who you are. They just think you're a chameleon. But by defining distinct boundaries, they're saying this, like, so most people today, if they've met me today, will be quite clear as to who I am and who I'm not, because that's what I showcase to the world. And I don't hold back. And I'm not apologetic about being me. You should never apologize for being yourself. So how can you avoid stuff permeating into this force field? Well, you need to be more aware of what you're allowing into your headspace. And this includes media, social media, who you follow, what news you listen to, who you surround yourself with, and like gossip, for example, drama. Do you really want to feel that energy of drama and other people's shit all the time? So you really want to start thinking, like, I don't mind getting paid to solve other people's shit, right? That's fine, because they're valuing my time to help them unravel their shit. And that is what I do. I do it really well. But I don't necessarily, if people are wanting just to share shit with me and not ask me for my help in resolving that shit, then I don't want to be around it, because it's just going to drain me, because I know how I can help them, and it frustrates me not being able to help them. So therefore, there's a barrier. You find someone else but maybe they don't want to get help, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. People can actually get attached to the benefits of sharing gossip and drama. So in conclusion of this masterclass, I want you to think about, what's your next actionable step? What are you going to do more of around your priorities? So how are you going to double down in those priorities and spend more time in those priorities? And then maybe the next actionable step is starting to like filter, like, so when someone asks about whether you're going to help them, say, look, I've got a lot on. I just need to come back to you. And that will give you some time to think about it. And then when you think about it, what you might think about is, this is a much better person to help them. And so therefore I'm going to help them by giving them the contact details of someone else. So that can be goal, is just buying more time and not just saying yes on the spot. Because when we say yes on the spot, we're only partly aware. We're partly aware to the upsides of helping them, but we're not aware of the downsides of helping them. By buying time, pausing, and allowing time to get back to that person, you can become aware of the downsides of helping them and the downsides of you helping them, and look at the upsides of someone else helping them. And this can be a real great filtering tool, because I often buy time. I will say, look, I need to get back to you. I don't have my diary with me, or I don't know what's going on, or whatever. I'll play that card, right? Because I want to think about it, and I want to make a mindful decision. When we spontaneously say yes, we're mindless, absolutely, because we're just blind. We're blinded to the downsides, and we're only aware of the upsides. So we want to become more mindful around our decision making, and to do that, we need to pause, reflect. The
Hey,
way
Anthony, this is kind of interesting what you're talking about. I've got a little tab here that I've been putting up. I do it every week, but this week it said conscious decision making, which I think is exactly what you're talking about. My
That's it.
second point is live with intent. So I think it kind of relates to that. But really funny that you
Yeah.
should say that. And I've got this little
Yeah.
post-it note sitting on my wall, conscious decision making.
Absolutely. Like as you'll start to realize that everything happens for a reason, and regardless if you can't see it in the moment or see it even years afterwards, eventually, hopefully, you'll find that reason. But you can actually find reason a lot quicker if you just allow more pause and more reflection. And I think because you're very conscious of wanting to improve in this area, hence you're attracting in more of what you need. You're tapping into it. And so hence why you've tapped into today's masterclass, is to just confirm that you're on the right path, really. That's all probably today's been for you. So, but absolutely. So on to consciousness. To become fully conscious, we're completely mindful, right? We've got full awareness. And the only way we can get mindful and tap into full consciousness is through pausing and being still and calm. Because what happens when we are busy making decisions quickly is that we're only connecting our brain, and what we're not connecting in the process is our heart. And we can only connect brain and heart when our brain waves drop down to the alpha waves. Hence why meditation and mindfulness activities have become, I guess, a global phenomena, is because what they're doing is connecting mind and heart. And in the past, well, we're taught at school just to think, and there's very little connection with the heart. And we overthink things, and we overcomplicate things, and we often make, I guess, we make decisions that aren't completely aligned to who we are. By allowing the pause and reflection, we can connect with our heart, and our heart will tell us, our soul will tell us whether this is the right thing for us to say yes to, or no, this is so not me. And the other thing that this initially is difficult to do, right? Because it's so much easier to say yes, because that pathway is so hardwired and it's so reinforced, and that's the easy option, is just to say yes. It's harder to develop this new pathway of saying no. But again, it's practice. It's practice. And it's really just doing it and applying that actionable step. And it's maybe saying no to the easiest, like the low-hanging fruit first, to the people that you don't really care that you offend. But obviously, it's much harder to say no to the ones that are really important to you, such as your children. And so start with the low-hanging fruit, the people you think, oh, fuck, I couldn't care if they, turned around and said, oh, I'm an arsehole. They're the ones you say no, 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 no. Start developing a muscle, and then it will get easier. And the way in which to make it real easier for you is to actually go through how it's serving them by me not doing it. How does it serve them by me not doing it? And start writing that list. And in actual fact, you'll have a breakthrough, a complete breakthrough, where you have this head-heart alignment once you get this complete realization, and you'll realize that it's in their best interest that you to say no. And they will discover that. And if you have a strong relationship with them, you can walk them through your logic of why you're saying no. Some people will then say, I don't want to be your friend because you stopped doing things for me and I was only in it for benefits, right? So you actually start to define true friendships. You actually start to define that true top 5 people that you want to continue to hang out with by saying no, because you don't know why those persons are hanging around. Is it the fact that you always say yes and they get what they want? Or is it they truly care about you? And so anyway, that's gone well into that depth of that subject, but I think you have probably got some more insight, hopefully. Now, in terms of, I'm going to wrap it up here, but going forward, working on yourself is the best thing that you can do. So in order to develop strong relationships with others, you ultimately need to know yourself. Two, because if you don't know yourself, then how can you authentically be yourself in relationships? So continue to work on that relationship with self, continue to define who you are, continue to say no to the things that aren't you. Get that really comfortable. So to a point where you're unstoppable in terms of you really don't care if people, say you're an arsehole or whatever. You just, because that's me. There'll be people that think I'm an arsehole regardless of what I do, right? But that's their perception of me. I know who I am and I just be me. And if they think I'm an arsehole, that's fine. That's their perspective. That's their opinion. But ultimately, I'm just going to continue to be me. If that offends others, then, well, we just don't hang out together, right? And I'm happy. They're happy. So again, continue to work on self, continue to define yourself, continue to put up those protective barriers. Once you start getting comfortable with self, you'll then find relationships start getting stronger, stronger, and stronger to the point where you just feel so connected with these people. Just being you, right? And that's all you need to do. You don't need to change them. You just need to be you and be unapologetic for being you. Because the people that really connect with you know who you are and know what they're getting. And so they'll continue to hang out with you in an authentic way. So that's the next step, is you'll start to strengthen the connection with others. And once you start feeling that more connected feeling with society through connecting with others, you'll then feel this need to look after the whole environment. And so you'll start to get connected with the environment. Some people can have that natural connection with the environment before connecting with others. That's just the way they're wired. So they'll have a stronger affinity towards animals, stronger affinity towards their environment than what they do others, and they'll go the other way. But it doesn't matter which pathway you go. But eventually you're going to be more connected with everyone, everything, yourself. And this ultimately leads to this ultimate connection that, the Buddhist monks strive towards, is enlightenment, is when you feel at one with the universe. So these are just some of the concepts that I've developed, which I'm happy to share these slides, but these are some of the concepts that I've developed through the research. And so this is the pyramid that I've come up with. It's just what I've shared in this webinar today. And pretty much what we've covered is these bottom parts of the pyramid, because these are the foundations. We touched on this: living by priority each day, living authentically, and then we can really be our best self and then strive for this oneness with everyone and everything. So I want to conclude with this slide. And in essence, every day we wake up, we're given a set of cards. And the ultimate aim for life is just to deal the best you can with the cards that are dealt with you. You don't know what cards you're going to be dealt in any given day, any given moment. I don't know what's going to be given to me in the next hour. But what I do is play the cards in front of me. I know what I'm doing now, and I just do what's in front of me. And so this is one of the most important things that you can also take away, is that things just happen. And as I think it was John Lennon said, life is what happens, right? So it's a very true statement. Life is what happens. And what we want to do is just play with the cards the best we can, with the amount of intelligence, the amount of knowledge, the amount of education, the amount of support that we have, is just play what's in front of us. What will happen over time is that we get better at dealing with those set of cards through experiences, through developing our network, through reaching out and asking for help. So that's what I ask you to do, is if you're struggling to deal with the set of cards in front of you, what you might want to do is then think, okay, I'm really not coping with the cards that I've got. I need some expert in here to help me, to guide me through, to help me better deal with these cards. Or you might want to do it yourself and go and get educated and go down that education path and start to empower you. Because the more empowered you are, the better you can deal with whatever's dealt with, shared with you in terms of what comes into your life. So that's the uncertainty of life. And we don't know if we're going to be around tomorrow or the next day. So it's just play what's in front of you and do the best you can. So that's what I wanted to conclude with. I really thank you for your time and thank you for signing up to the masterclass. If you want more of this information, then please have a look for the Joyful Mate podcast. I've done over 50 episodes on what I've shared today, constantly interviewing people, constantly getting more information, constantly researching and constantly sharing that. So if you want more of this, then look for the Joyful Mate podcast on Apple, Spotify. It's also on YouTube. Wherever you go, you'll find the Joyful Mate podcast and you can get more of this information. And thank you once again. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Anth.
You're welcome, Eric. Thanks for your support, your continued
Thank
support.
you.
Thanks for turning up, and thanks for turning up, Yuri.
I just I listened to something yesterday I thought it might interest you. You probably heard it already, but it was about a lady who works in palliative care, and she just put something out about regrets, and I think it really aligns with what you teach people. So I just sent you a link to it.
Yeah.
She's quite interesting lady, I think. Have a listen. It's really good.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate anything I can come across. I might even ask her to come on the podcast. So appreciate that, Eric. Any of that you come across, please share it with me because I'm a sponge of this sort of information and I want to conceptualize, like come up with concepts so that people can understand it. I'm still developing those concepts. As you can see, it's still work in progress, but making progress. And
nice to meet you, Gary.
It's a one-to-one. One-to-one. Make sure you guys put in a one-to-one.
Yeah.
You can. You'll find Eric Brown in the directory, so log a one-to-one with him. You got to know more about Eric, didn't you? You know what's important to him.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, take care, guys, and I really appreciate your continued support.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Anthony. Have a nice day.
Bye.